All right, well, let's find out what happens. Will it be GG on turn 2? Cedric and Corey are in the booth with the call for the round with the cool decks.
Well, we can only hope so, because we want to see something really awesome happen here in round number fun. That's what I'm calling this round.
That's a good one.
Because these are where all the cool decks are going to try to do their thing and show that Modern is capable of, as Frank said, basically anything. Cedric Phillips, Corey Baumeister, we are here in the booth. We're here in Amsterdam, too, which is not a bad place to be, if I do say so myself.
Sweet place, for sure.
We've seen some Nadu. We've seen a little Necro dominance. We're still trying to get our eyes on Ruby Storm over the course of this weekend. But for now, apparently, we're going to do some showing off maybe in Gruul?
Yeah, we're going to have some sugar, spice, and everything nice this round.
So.
We got some really nice deck lists here ready to go from you, and I'm really excited to see Gruul. We've seen decks like this in the past, but definitely not with this angle of attack, with scale up, giving a double strike. Really a unique take on this deck.
Now, one thing that you can do in a combo format is you can try to kill the opponent faster than they combo, right?
Yep.
So a way to do that is just play something that is hyper aggressive, which is what Brian Boss is bringing to the battlefield here this round with Gruul Prowess, which is a deck, as Frank did mention, can kill you as soon as turn number 2, depending on a specific draw. But it's a deck that can absolutely kill you on turn number 4, and I think turn number 3 could happen quite a bit too. So you're going to see a Monastery Swiftspear, a couple copies, Mistress Bobble. That means a couple of Prowess triggers and attack here for 3. So Boss is at 18 because of the Stomping Ground. Charles Eiler, 17 because of the damage, and now a couple of Bobble activations, Corey.
Yeah, and we'll unpack Charles's hand here in a second, but for Brian, we do see the combo. There's Scale Up and Assault Strobe already. So if we can find a land, since there was already 3 damage dealt, you know, that's up to 7, that's up to 8, that's 16. I guess that is 1 short, so might need a little bit more help here.
No, 1 short's fine, bro.
Yeah.
1 short's fine.
There's a nice land
across
the way.
That's a Verdant Catacombs. One short is great. So,
Stone Rain plus attacking?
Yeah.
That's my kind of deck.
That is totally fine. So here's the thing about this particular tournament that we're playing. And we're not playing in a tournament, right, where you have to worry about cards like Fatal Push, other Lightning Bolt, just like Unholy Heat, just like 1 mana cheap interaction. This format is not about Solitude. Of course, we're open deckless, as was mentioned by the news desk.
Yeah.
So you kind of know you're basically clear for takeoff if you're Brian against a lot of matchups. And this is what makes Brian's deck very interesting coming into the weekend, which is if you don't have to worry about those cheap removal spells, you can just play a deck that is very all-in like this and just go, hey, I'm playing Fatal Push, so I'm going for it.
Exactly. I mean, this deck is definitely as close to a combo deck as an aggro deck gets. So going to be really interesting to see if he kind of goes for that line or decides to take a little bit more conservative line with some of the 3 Prowess creatures that he just drew.
Well, here is a Monastery Swiftspear, so there's a second one of those. Brian's going to come across here for, it looks like, just 2.
15.
No big fireworks so far. Looking like we're going to save it for next turn.
I'm going to fetch to 14.
And it looks like it's still going to work pretty well next turn. There's the Orcish Bowmaster, which can represent 2 blockers. But the one thing that these Prowess decks have done in the past is draw a decent amount of cards. You know, the Is It Prowess list kind of thing, where Bowmaster is actually pretty good. Here, you're not really drawing too much cards with this deck from Brian. You are getting the cards that you drew, and you're comboing off with them to deal yourself some lethal damage.
You know, the way Modern has changed since the introduction of Modern Horizons 3, which of course has not been around particularly long, but you know, cards that we expect to be very good in Modern have been lessened a little bit. Orcish Bowmasters might be at the top of that list.
Yes.
You know, it's a card that has been very dominant since its printing, and of course we saw it win Pro Tour The Lord of the Rings in the hands of Jake Beardsley last year in Barcelona. But given the introduction of this new set, Modern Horizons 3, and how much it has changed things, I'm not saying Orcish Bowmasters is bad, because that's a crazy thing to say.
Yeah.
But what I would say is I think it's gotten worse.
It's definitely gotten worse. There's not a lot of X1s that are being played right now, too, like these Bant Nadu decks, these 4-color Nadu decks. You know, it's not that great in the mirror. It's all Delighted Halfling, stuff like that. Nadu's not drawing cards, you know, and yeah, it just does not look as impressive.
Charles is going to play an Island and a Shuko and simply pass the turn back over to Brian Boss, who will draw a card, and maybe it's time to go for broke here. We'll have to see. He's having a Stomping Ground. Scale Up has been brought forward, so there is a Scale Up. A couple Prowess triggers. There's the Assault Strobe. Smell you later. Brian Boss is going to win game 1 with the sauce. Gruul Prowess very quickly up a game. This is what we're talking about, man. This is a way that you can kind of beat these Nadu decks, especially if they're draw, maybe a little stumble, maybe a little fumble, which is just, I can run you over before you actually do your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we see in the sideboard here from Brian, not only was that draw just fast enough to compete with Nadu without, trying to do any other fancy tricks, you have Harsh Mentors here, and 3 of them if you want to slow down your game plan a little bit and maybe not win on turn 2, or at least cut some of the cards that really don't help you win on turn 2 as much, maybe like Lava Darts, and bring in a hateful card like Harsh Mentor, and then you still have the really high top end of being able to have these explosive draws with Scale Up and giving your creatures double strike.
Scalding Tarn here for Boss is going to search for a mountain. That's why he's falling down to 19, while Charles Eiler is kicking things off with just a breeding pool that does enter the battlefield tapped, a Springheart Nantuko, Endurance, Quarter Calling, Nadu, and a Pendlehaven there for Charles. So still missing the very powerful Shuko for the 1-2 punch in the 4-color Nadu deck. Boss's start very similar to last game with a Bobble and a Monastery Swift Spear. Going to activate that Swift Spear, take a look at Charles's top card, and not going to miss the trigger with the Bobble. Not something I can say I do well.
You miss them often?
We all do.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
Let's not act like we don't.
That's why we're here in the booth,
That's right.
We miss those triggers.
Just a Pendlehaven there for Charles. We're going to head back over to Brian. Brian kind of the star of the show thus far in this matchup, though things can turn very quickly with this Nadu deck. It only takes one Shuko and a whole bunch of activations to put things back in Charles's favor. For now, Brian is going to sacrifice this Bloodstained Mire. It will be a stomping ground, as Boss will fall down to 16. We mentioned that Brian qualified for this tournament via adjusted match points, did a very nice job in Seattle at Pro Tour Outlaws at Thunder Junction. While for Charles, who is off to a nice 4-1 start here in his first Pro Tour.
Impressive.
Top 8 finish at the United States Regional Championship in Dallas just a couple of weeks ago. So we have been seeing players in their first Pro Tour do quite well recently, and Charles is another one now, again, off to that 4-1 start, and not dead yet.
Not dead yet at all, though I will say Charles did have quite the slow draw. We did see a mulligan there at the beginning, so nothing really, to blame as far as, you didn't really want to go to 5 just to get the perfect hand of getting a Delighted Halfling or something, but just shows the power of this Gruul Prowess deck where you're just under the gun immediately if you don't have a really fast start here. And as it stands right now, Brian has Scale Up, so that represents so much damage on Slick Shot Show Off already. Plenty of chump blockers for the other one, so the double scale up is not going to work necessarily as great on the Swift Spear, but still looks like a 2-turn clock on the surface value here for Brian to close out this match already.
And that'll be a Sylvan Safekeeper now for Charles, so getting the base all set up for the old Nadu deck as we head back Brian's way.
Drew a Bobble, so one extra trigger there. Scale Up on Show Off, Scale Up on Swift Spear plus Bobble. That's +6 from Show Off, 12 for Show Off, and then I guess you knock the top of the deck and hope that you have a Lightning Bolt here. You actually get to do a little library manipulation as well. You can either play that Stomping Ground or Scalding Tarn if you like the top of your deck or not. So it looks like we're a little short, and then Charles will have the opportunity to maybe find a Shuko or Quarter Calling for the other combo piece of the Outrider and Core and start it going.
It'll be a Stomping Ground that enters the battlefield untapped here via the Scalding Tarn for Brian. So Brian's going to fall down to 13. You mentioned the Outriders on Core. It's a very nice Quarter Calling target. Most versions that we've seen here this weekend are just playing one of those, so you're not entirely reliant on Shuko to go off. Quarter Calling can certainly help you. In the meantime, let's talk Scale Up here. It's on the Slick Shot Show Off. Easy to say.
Yeah, there you go. You nailed it. Yeah, we'll see which one of us screws it up first here. That's the challenge.
So easy.
Will it go to 10 or Bobble? Yeah, but does it not lose that? No, it doesn't lose.
No. Yep, that is an additional modification onto the card. It's just the base tower. Base power, excuse me.
Yeah, that can be a little bit confusing. Yeah, but we are going to, Charles is going to do the right thing here, which is a little unsure. Ask a judge, ask for the Oracle text, make sure that the power and toughness is appropriate. Again, scale off a little bit strange. Base power 6-4, prowess triggers. How does it all work?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Modern staples scale up here. Maybe
no.
not necessarily what everyone's used to.
depends who you are. So now here's another scale up on the Monastery Swift Spear.
This is 12 in the air, and this is 9 on the ground.
I'd recommend a block on the Swift Spear for sure.
Smart. So there's the block there. The air is 12.
Yep.
Charles is going to fall down to 3. Now remember, Brian did sacrifice a fetch land, so the bobble trigger is a mystery card.
Upkeep. Yeah.
Could win right now. Oh, baby. That's why you have fetch lands in your deck.
That's
so you can be
right.
like, I don't want this top card. It'd be a lot cooler as a lightning bolt.
All right, well, there's a Court of Calling in response for 3. So what can this find?
Oh, I think it's going to find a little bit more camera time. That's about it.
Yeah, well, you might as well take a look, Ski. Maybe Charles has got something in here. He does have a Knight of Autumn. That from the board?
Sideboard
How
right out
how
of there.
about it? All right.
Okay.
Take that.
We're playing Magic still.
So gain 4, go up to 7, down to 4 from the bolt resolving. And there's still maybe a little more time. Take a draw here now, will Charles.
And Brian's got to be especially if he ends up losing this game. He's still looking great. Any spell here will probably do it. But Brian could have avoided that a little bit. Could have waited on that lightning bolt.
That's
Oh,
how
never
about this? How about an assault strobe there, pal? No lightning bolt necessary. That's gonna do
Oh,
it. Brian
baby.
Boss. We said he's got the sauce. Gruul Prowess. Let's go.
Oh my, that was an absolute delight to
Yes,
watch
it
here.
was.
Goes
Jeez.
for the lightning bolt off the top. The Knight of Autumn came in to be able to interact a little bit, but no problem. We got another basically lightning bolt on the top. That was some nice stuff.
That was an absolute blast. We said this was going to be the fun round. We're 1 for 1 on fun. We got to try to go 2 for 2. But before we do, Marie and Frank are going to have a word with you.
Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, we have got Reid Duke versus Kevin Thanakit.
Reid Duke is playing Mono Black Necro, which is all about black pitch spells and Necro dominance. A throwback to Necropotence, which dominated Magic back in the 90s and was one of the most powerful enchantments ever printed. Kevin Thanakit is playing Gruul Eldrazi, where the killing blow is to use Through the Breach to sneak in Emrakul the Aeon Storm, which can then attack with Annihilator 6. Kaboom.
Necro versus Eldrazi is coming up after the break.
Cedric's a poet. And he's aware.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah.
That's what they tell me. Seti P, Corey B, Modern Horizons 3 here from Amsterdam. Let's have some more fun here in round number 6. Gonna be tough to top.
Yeah, that was good. That was good,
No.
especially in the amount of time, at least. I mean, that
True.
was a lot of fun focused in a small amount of time.
Yeah, bolts rolling off the top. A lot of damage in one turn. Slick shot show off. A lot of fun. But as we try to top what we just watched, what better place to start than with Reid Pro Tour for actually a champion. You know, a couple of top finishes on the resume. Not a bad little career. And you know, not everybody gets these little logos down here. Hall of Fame World Championship. Jeez, oh, it's Reid. Give everybody else a chance here. Kevin's gonna try. No top finishes on the resume just yet for Thanakit, but 3-2, off to a nice little start. Has an extremely fun deck as well. So for Reid, it's gonna be mono black Necro. On the other side though, Corey, I'll let you talk about this Eldrazi deck.
Yeah, so this deck is awesome. A Gruul Eldrazi deck, but it is nowhere near kind of the Eldrazi decks we've seen before. You do have Eldrazi Temple, kind of a little bit of fast mana, Ugin's Labyrinth to bring out Thought-Knot Seers and stuff like that. But the main thing we're doing here is Through the Breach for big old Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. Didn't think I'd be seeing this Emrakul, you know, I mean, maybe Emrakul anew, but yeah, this is a really spicy one and is able to close the game out extremely fast. Still has the One Ring, still has some other powerful things, but that's plan A, is attack with an Emrakul through the breach.
You know, who knew that over the course of Magic's history we'd have 3 Emrakuls? That's the first thing. Now, here's the second thing. Who knew they were all going to get played in one tournament?
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Probably the lesser of the expected ones.
Yeah.
Would be this 15 mana one, but definitely a powerhouse. And I do think this is going to be slightly tough for Reid. Like, hand disruption, sure, it's great against this deck, but you can't Thoughtseize the top of the deck, so if you can get one of these pieces off the top, Kevin can easily take this down.
Okay, well, this card here in Grief was the star of the show of our last Modern Pro Tour back in Barcelona. It feels like ages ago now that we saw Grief and, of course, Evoke and everything else, that it was causing up the trouble in Barcelona in the hands of Jake Beardsley and so many in that tournament. Now, a little bit less so.
Yeah.
It's seeing play in this Necro Dominance deck primarily. The days of Rakdos Evoke may just be entirely behind us, but the card is still very powerful, Corey, nonetheless.
Yep, still really powerful, and more than likely we're going to be seeing from Reid here a Malachor Rebirth. You know, this is the not dead after all style of effect, but the fact that it is a land on the other side allows Reid to kind of cheat on mana a little bit here, is only playing, 11 actual lands. So more than likely Reid's going to be able to take 2 cards here. Through the Breach is pretty much the auto take, and then more than likely you're just taking command here. Oh, wow. I stand corrected. Okay, only taking 1 card, so it doesn't have the combo, the nice draw.
Yeah, so this is just, I know this is going to sound crazy, just a boring Grief with nothing else to do. Just take your best card and say go.
Yeah. That probably signifies that we're going to see, you know, one of the new cards here from MH3 Necro Dominance from Reid, and just wanted to make sure he wasn't going to get anything gigantic put into play this turn.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing the legendary enchantment on the battlefield at some point of our second match here in round number 6. For now, Kevin with a Talisman of Impulse. That's an old one, but a good one. Through the Breach, still in hand, as mentioned.
And the nice thing with Ugin's Labyrinths against these Grief decks, you get to hide kind of your best card that you don't want taken from you. So still has the ability to bring that other powerful Eldrazi Devourer of Destiny into hand at end step, play it the next turn, and still deal with a permanent.
Yeah, Ugin's Labyrinth is a card that we do expect to see quite a bit of play in Modern, given its printing here in Modern Horizons 3. It's going to be fun to see players put that card through the paces and find the best home for the very powerful land, that's for sure. And that, alongside Eldrazi Temple and some other ways to generate a lot of mana, is a strategy that plenty of players are employing this weekend. And now Reid is going to employ this strategy, like many other members of his team. It's a Necro Dominance, and is going to look to start to dominate this game.
Yep. Let's see how many. There's always some kind of discussion if you want to be going for an absurd number like 10.
12 life down to 8.
Okay.
So that was pay 12.
Wow, okay. So now there is going to be Reid still saying, all right, not your turn quite yet. It's going to be some soul spikes fired off more than likely. Instead of discarding these cards, might as well deal some damage and then kind of just do this every turn because you're gaining life with the soul spike. You can possibly cast Shieldred next turn where you can pretty much give away your entire life total except one, and then, well, you're gaining twice as much back. And see if you can just bury your opponent in card advantage and free spells like Soul Spike.
Now, the idea is that you do draw a couple of copies of Soul Spike in this first activation. Reid organizing his hand a little bit at this stage. Of course, if he has a Soul Spike, I think we're going to see him cast it. And here is the first one of those. So Reid is going to gain 4 and going to deal Kevin 4. The life gain here very important for Reid, given the Necro dominance that's on the battlefield. And it might be time for Reid to discard. But before he does, it's going to be a Kozilek's Command, it looks like.
So looking to draw a card, make some Scions, it sounds like. So able to deploy a big old Eldrazi next turn and possibly deal with the Necro Dominance.
Mm-hmm. The Scries are going to put the top 2 cards in the bottom, and then Kevin draws. Reid's going to discard a whole bunch of lands. It looks like a Grief and maybe a copy of the One Ring. So we're going to head back Kevin's way. Ideally, Kevin has a very big turn, because Reid certainly just did.
All right, I did see through the breach, but I don't think I see a payoff. And Devourer of Destiny is a cast trigger, so not being able to even kind of cheat that into play to get anything too exciting going on. So kind of looks like a little bit of a brick turn here from Kevin.
And taking a look at Kevin's deck, too, one thing I'm kind of noticing here is it is not hard for this deck to cast through the breach ahead of schedule.
No.
To be able to wipe out the opponent entirely, which is a pretty wild thing to think about. We've seen players try through the breach strategies with Emrakul in Modern for basically Modern's entire lifespan, right? And it's been good at some times and pretty poor at others. This might be a high point for this style of deck here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these style of decks, you know, you could just have 2 combo pieces and both of the cards are bad on their own, you know, so you have to combine them to get some good value. And, you know, that's just not always great in a high-powered format like Modern where, you know, consistent, powerful decks exist now. You look at Bant Nadu, it does the same things. All the things kind of, you know, find each other's combo pieces. And this deck necessarily doesn't do that. You just got to draw well.
Well, Reid is cooking right now, so he just did the alternate casting of Grief. Sacrifice that to a Phyrexian Tower. That'll give you 2 black. You see the other 2 lands that are tapped. That's Shieldred. Now we're in the end step, which means it's time to trigger the old Necro Dominance. And Reid says, I'm going to go all the way down to 1 because I'm having so much fun. I'm back up to 23, and that's a lot of cards, Corey.
I'm liking your rhymes today, Cedric. Really nice.
Only for round 6. I won't do it any other round.
Only for the fun rounds?
That's
okay,
right.
Otherwise, straight edge, taking it all serious. Okay, good,
boring,
good to know.
Boring. No more rhyming. Maybe some singing occasionally. Perhaps a professional wrestling reference or 20. Okay. We'll make it through the show.
I got bad news for you. I do not watch a lot of professional wrestling, so it might all go over my head, just so you know.
That's even more of a reason to do them.
Okay.
Reid is running healthy right now.
Yeah.
Running healthy.
So is able to find this, but really the damage is done. You know, you're able to destroy Necro Dominance or Shieldred. Pick your poison. You know, both are pretty bad. Reid definitely has 5 cards in hand that are going to be great. We see a couple March. There was a One Ring. Just a lot of ways to gain a ton of value. And it's really awesome to see this team on kind of split. You know, there was a lot of Ruby Storm between the team as well as Mono Black, and it really seems like kind of they're all doing pretty well.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise you that Team Channel Fireball's having a good tournament given the players on the team, to be sure. Yeah. But it is notable, as you mentioned, that they are kind of split among decks. They've got some Nadu, they've got some Ruby Storm, they've got some Mono Black Necro Dominance. They felt that all 3 decks were pretty darn powerful, and so it was kind of at that point, once you established and identified what the powerful decks was, it's just kind of like, okay, which one fits best for me?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And we were kind of talking, you know, in our pre-production meeting and stuff like that, you know, maybe there's a lot of new decks, so people aren't playing exactly what they're comfortable with, but there is play styles of decks that players are comfortable with. You know, there might just be these Storm decks over the history of Magic where you're just like, I don't enjoy that. I haven't enjoyed playing them in the past. I don't think I'm going to enjoy playing them now. And Reid definitely feels more like a mid-range style gamer, so this definitely fits his play style.
Well, there's a big play. That's the Devourer that's going to take care of the Shieldred. So that's not so bad, but it is still a pretty uphill climb. Now remember, of course, that Reid doesn't get the opportunity to draw a card because of the Necro Dominance. It does say skip your draw step, and that's why Reid has actually placed a die on top of his deck. Doesn't want to make that mistake.
24.
So Reid's going to fall down to 24.
Looks like it's time for the One Ring. Do some extra drawing and then more Necro Dominance action at end step. And it's pretty much just to find more Shieldrids. And of course, you can just win the game. When your opponent's at 8, you got to be very tempted to draw a large amount of cards. But of course, you don't want to get too carried away with the crackback. Of course, we have the protection for this turn. But eventually, you do have to worry about that.
Yeah, it could just be Soul Spikes aplenty here to kind of finish things off potentially for Reid. So
I'll go to my end step.
I'll let Reid say it for us.
Yeah.
12 life down to 12.
All right, let's see how many spikes we find. 2 of them for the win. Of course, there are 4 in pretty much all of these decks. We did see Brent sideboard one of them out last round and maybe led to his demise a little bit. So we'll see. That's probably their strategy against those Tron-style matchups.
Reid going to do a little bit of organizing of the hand.
Doesn't look like any of them at quick glance.
There's at least one march over there,
Yep.
which isn't too surprising, but it doesn't look like there's any more spikes at this stage of things. So
Yeah, you're able to just march, discard all these cards, gain like 20 life.
I'm going to march your Devourer for 18.
oh, okay.
All right.
Oh, just 18.
Checks notes. Oh, yeah, it dies. I'll put it in the graveyard.
Okay.
Not bad.
You know, one of the things I love about Reid is one of the only people who can say that sentence, I'm going to march your Devourer for 18, and it just feels like honest.
Yeah.
I'm going to march your Devourer for 18, and you're just like, of course, okay. Yeah, okay, Reid, you're very nice. So my creature
It's
is
the same way he would just say, yeah, I'll no blocks, you know, for like getting lethal damage assigned to him. You know,
Yeah.
just always the kind of same even keel.
Take that damage, put a counter on my ring, draw a card. Yep.
I'll start.
Skip my draw step.
Oh, I love Reid.
Hard not to.
29 to 8.
Correct.
There's a swamp. That'll be the land for the turn. Again, because of how many double-sided cards there are in this deck, some of which, of course, are from Modern Horizons 3, and with how much life this deck gains, the drawback, quote-unquote, of having to pay 3 life to have him enter the battlefield untapped, really not a big deal.
Yeah, not really mattering too much, and it is just really awesome design how you are only playing 11 actual lands, but you have access to, you know, a solid 20 when you count those double face cards.
Orcish Bowmasters.
All Bowmasters you.
That's going to shoot Kevin. That means the army token will be happening for sure. And it is a good little nudge there from the judge that the cards, once Necrodominance is on the battlefield, they're exiled. No matter how
Very
they,
relevant right now.
Yeah, no matter how they get into the graveyard. So don't forget that. Now here's a little spike.
331.
Yep.
End my turn.
You know, you will think, though, like, if there is a Through the Breach Emrakul, though, it does still look like, you know, as over as this game feels, that's still a really powerful effect. If you're able to take, you know, I guess you don't even take the extra turn, huh? Never mind.
Yeah. It is powerful, but it's not the end all be all.
Yeah, sacrificing 6 permanents would be reasonable, but I know one certain enchantment that you stick around, and then you're probably all right.
Well, there's a copy of the One Ring.
Okay.
Now, there is a Bowmaster on the battlefield. Now, One Ring's protection, going to one-up that for a little bit.
Yep.
Not for a lot of it, but at least off the jump here for Kevin. That doesn't appear to be a poor draw step.
I will try to draw.
And Reid can respond now if he wants with another Bowmaster.
Yeah, I'll Bowmaster the.
I'll respond. I'll flow a mana.
Sure.
And one thing that Reid can do here, you know, there is the ring protection right now for the next turn, but Reid can still just draw a bunch of cards, you know, draw 8 or 9 again, and then just say go and upkeep Soul Spike.
Yep.
Not too much I think Kevin can really do about that.
Aha!
Sure.
There it is.
Talisman.
The missing piece.
Look at this. Reid's going to draw a couple of cards here with his copy of the One Ring. So 2 burden counters on Reid's, 1 on Kevin's. So Reid will be taking 2 and falling down to, looks like, 29.
I had myself at 29, going down to 27.
Well, let's clear it up here just a little bit.
Actually, I'm sorry. I had myself at 27.
And then you gain 4.
Thanks.
There we go.
29.
29, I agree. So
29 to 3, they agree.
Go.
And so Reid will mosey on along. Again, not drawing a card because of the Necro Dominance that's on the battlefield.
End my turn.
And just end his turn.
Ends the turn, but does not activate. Doesn't draw any more cards, signifying that Reid might have it locked up. I know he does have a second Bowmaster, so if that ring turns sideways, which it looks like it has to be, I mean, I guess the one on the field is going to be good enough, then it will be lethal. Doesn't look like Kevin has too much. Okay, looks like another One Ring. Buy some more time.
Yeah, it's interesting to see.
Masters, if that
Okay, well, Reid says I have 2 Bowmasters, which is going to make it a little bit easier. What I was going to say there was it was interesting to see how Reid was navigating that game just because of the I'm not going to draw a ton of extra cards. I'm actually going to rely on the ring now as opposed to the Necro Dominance and just kind of, I guess, not going all in when I think other players might.
Yeah, I think it just really led me to the assumption that, well, he's got it. You know, he's got it locked up. It's just wait for your opponent to do the things. And Kevin had to blink first the entire time with having Bowmaster already in hand from Reid. So Reid knew that eventually, in response to what Kevin was going to do, he was able to finish it off.
Well, both these players are going to keep 7 here for game number 2 of round number 6. Cedric Phillips, Corey Baumeister. We are here from Amsterdam at Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3, watching Pro Tour Phyrexia champion Reid Duke do his thing with Mono Black Necro against Kevin, who's trying to get something going here in game number 2. Kicking things off with a pregame action of Devourer of Destiny, where you can reveal that card from your opening hand, and if you do, at the beginning of your first upkeep, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put one of those cards on top of your deck and exile the rest. So that Through the Breach, that Talisman, and that Stomping Ground, those are gone for good.
Really, really nice card, though, in this deck. I mean, already just the payoff effect, something you can exile to Ugin's Labyrinth, just a good card to cast to get rid of maybe some hate cards for your kind of combo here, and then just being able to set up a nice little card on top, since you are this kind of 2-card combo deck, where you do have to find a way to assemble the combo. Otherwise, your deck doesn't do a lot.
Yep. An Eldrazi Temple and a Grove of the Burn Willows is where Kevin's going to start things. You saw Reid get some information via the Inquisition of Kozilek to kick things off, a card that may be making a bit of a return to Modern, given all the combo decks that are running around nowadays. Reid just going to play a Swamp and pass the turn back over to Kevin. See if Kevin's got anything explosive to try to do this game. Last game was a bit of a bummer. Reid kind of tore Kevin's hand apart with the Grief and other discard spells.
Yep, very much did. How many times do you think Reid has cast that specific Inquisition?
Great question. I asked him earlier. 3,212.
Oh, really?
Is the answer, yeah.
He's been keeping track.
It's that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, he loves his discard spells.
He does.
Just an internal tick timer going up every time.
Can't get anything by him. Ancient Stirrings here for Kevin, looking at a Boseiju among other cards. Going to be taking one of those with him. And it may be the aforementioned Boseiju, or at least Kevin's thinking about it.
Okay. That is a nice answer to Necro Dominance because you can destroy it before you gain any value. But the problem with that is you do just have to always leave up 2 mana, which, you know, you can't always do here.
Yep. Another Grove of the Burn Willows. And just a passing of the turn. In the interim, Reid's going to play an Orcish Bowmasters, target Kevin. Kevin's going to fall down to 19. A 1/1 army will join the fray alongside the Orc Archer. And let's see what Reid can put together for his 3rd turn of the game. Last game, that was a Necro Dominance. This game, I'd be a little surprised if it was that because of the Boseiju, as you mentioned, Corey.
Yep, very face up there. And I did also see a Veil of Summer in hand for Kevin.
Well, what we're seeing here from Reid is a copy of Break the Ice. This is a new button, and this is actually a pretty nice one here. So black, destroy target land that is snow or could produce colorless. And I say new insofar as this is not a card that's seen a lot of play.
No.
But this is a good tournament for it appears.
Yeah, I mean, every single black deck that we've seen that's trying to have a good answer against decks like Tron usually plays red, and they just play Blood Moon. So, you know, you really don't need this. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can just still Veil to protect your land if needed here from Kevin. So we'll see if he wants to fire that off. I can't imagine you wouldn't want to, since you're for sure not going to see Necro Dominance here. You do get a little bit of a boost here from Orcish Bowmaster. Plenty worth it to keep your Eldrazi Temple around.
It's kind of crazy to feel like Break the Ice and Veil some are new cards in the format because they've both been around for a little while, but in the new version of Modern that we're seeing here this weekend, both of these cards seem to be a little bit better than they were than they previously were.
Yeah, they got a little supercharged, that's for sure. Veil of Summer is just an incredible card in this deck too, though. Preventing hand disruption spells as well as forcing through a counter spell or something. It just really is a double split card against a lot of matchups.
The One Ring, well, that one's not going anywhere. I think we're going to continue to see that one for a little while. Both players have access to that card in their decks, and many players have chosen to register the powerful artifact from the Lord of the Rings set. It's on the battlefield here for Kevin, so Kevin is protected. Burden counter on there, so a new card did come as we head back Reid's way with a 1/1 Orcish Bowmaster, a 3/3 army, and just a couple of lands. So you see that Reid's draw this game far less explosive than it was in the last one.
Yep, nothing too amazing, and this would definitely be the Necro Dominance turn. So if we don't see it, probably not in the hand. And just a sad flip side of, you know, what really is just a swamp in this deck. Able to exile a land, get a 3/1 body in, and present a decent clock if Kevin is unable to find the combo here. This could be the Through the Breach Emrakul turn, though, and then we are done here.
Well, that's 5 mana.
Oh! Oh.
Okay, that's a little. It's a little bit more than 5. Yeah, it was a little bit more than 5. There's the Devourer of Destiny. So 6/6. When you cast it, you can exile target permanent. That's 1 or more colors. Now here's a ring activation. 2 more cards coming here for Kevin. So Kevin is the more dominant of the two, at least thus far in this game.
Yep. And looks like we do see Force of Despair in Reid's hand there to be able to clear off the attacker and still get some beatdowns going, you know. 6 coming in here, the ring dealing 2, 8 damage. This puts Kevin already down to an effective 7.
Okay.
And Grief to be able to clear this off. So if there's a good card in hand now, we're going to take it. But then, of course, there is still going to be 4 cards that Kevin's going to be able to see and a bunch of rings to give more protection. Kevin's is still looking very good here.
Yeah, Kevin's got some time to work with in this game, given the hand. You mentioned the copies of the One Ring. There are 2 there. Of course, there's also the one that's on the battlefield. Another Devourer. It looks like that may be a copy of the brand new Ulamog in hand. So this is very much an Eldrazi strategy right now.
Oh, yeah. The 3-ring, as it's commonly known.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll see if we can find the combo. Kevin still needs both pieces, and I'm curious to see how this deck would sideboard as well up against a heavily disruptive deck. You know, I wouldn't be too shocked to see maybe some of the combo pieces come out. So we might not necessarily see that over-the-top draw here, but we will see.
Kevin has activated the ring. Couple of cards from that, as well as the draw step. Eldrazi Temple is the land for the turn. Let's see what the spell will be. It will be a copy of the One Ring, so that'll replace the old copy. Protection has been established.
And still 4 mana available for Eldrazi's if he does find a Thought-Knots here to be able to do some disrupting of his own. But notably, does not leave up green mana.
Yeah,
for
and
Visage.
you actually kind of beat me to it.
Yeah.
I noticed that the Eldrazi Temples are up and the Groves are down. That could have been a frown there for Kevin, but there is no Necro Dominance here for Reid. And I will say this, even though this is you and I's first time to actually cover a match here with Necro Dominance, you can tell how reliant it feels the deck is on that card.
Very much so, but it is also a deck that I bet mulligans extremely well because all you really need is 3 mana and that card if you know, they're not trying to do too much. So, and then all of a sudden you're completely unmulliganed So you can be looking across your mono black Necro player and be like, wow, they mulled to 4. This is great. I'm going to have a free win. And then they play that on turn 3, and all of a sudden they have 12 cards in hand again. And you're like, all right, never mind.
Yeah, anything but a free W then. So Kevin's going to activate the One Ring again. This is, of course, a new copy. That's why you see a few less bird encounters, only 2 right now. Kevin's life total is still a little bit worrisome, as there is that very powerful land, Ugin's Labyrinth.
So we have 11 mana for Eldrazi. So decides to just not cast that powerful card that was just exiled, even though the option was there.
In lieu. In lieu. Showing a little dominance.
There you go.
With the Talisman.
Yeah, Kevin's hand is just, as you can imagine, with drawing this many cards off the One Ring, absolutely stocked up.
Yeah, you have to assume something powerful is coming. There's another copy of the ring. So protection back on, a little bit of a reset here. Draw the card now, will Kevin. So as you mentioned, Corey, Kevin has had the opportunity to see a ton of cards. We don't have a great look at Kevin's hand at this stage, but you have to imagine there's got to be some goodies in there.
Yeah, it looks like to the far right of his hand on our screen there, those look like Eldrazi's, so it's just, how expensive are they?
Sure.
Hard casting Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, is not something I had on my bingo card. But we very well might see that in a couple of turns.
I don't think it's impossible. I would say maybe it's a bit improbable. This one's a little bit easier to cast than Thief of Existence.
Yep.
This one is another newbie. 3 mana, 3/4. When you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target non-creature, non-land permanent opponent controls with mana value 4 or less. If you do, Thief of Existence gains when this creature leaves the battlefield. Target opponent draws a card. So it's a nice solution to maybe some weird problems.
I will say, though, Kevin is at 5. That is 1 life point away from the scary number if you're sitting across from this mono black deck. If you can just get soul spiked out of nowhere when you have that many cards in hand, you feel pretty bad about turning the ring sideways, you know?
No, my concern right now for Kevin, the life total is 1. The lack of a real powerful game action is another. That is the concern I have from the booth here.
Yeah, like this feels like the turn where Kevin has to have a gigantic turn, and there is through the breach. So I would imagine it is going to be said turn really, really large. But, that's still, even if Reid doesn't have many lands left, if an Emrakul actually has an Annihilator 6 trigger that hits Reid doesn't need lands to win the game here. Yep. So this could still be trouble for Kevin, even if he does the thing.
All right, well, through the breach is on the stack. And we all know a creature wants to attack. It's just a matter of if it's over there.
I gotta imagine it is. He's drawn 1 million cards this game. See what kind of interaction Reid has for that. Traditionally, mono black decks have really not had.
Oh, well, this is cute.
Oh, this is incredible.
So, a Malakir Rebirth is going to be cast on the Grief.
I'm sure that's it. I'm sure just waiting for it to die then. Nothing else after that.
Let's see if Kevin has a response.
A Braid.
25.
Okay, so there's an Abrade in response. Does Reid have a response?
Could have another Rebirth here.
Well, it does not. So, Abrade resolve in the Grief, which means the Malakir Rebirth will be countered upon resolution.
Yeah, and this might just really do it here. As in, I do not think Reid is really going to have any permanence after this, but it'll be down to knock the top of the deck if Soul Spike's there, plus the 2 damage from the One Ring.
Yep. So Ulamog the Defiler is what was placed onto the battlefield. That's a whole bunch of damage, and that'll be more than enough. We don't need to watch any more of that one, so let's watch a little bit of this one as Reid and Kevin, well, they're all tied up. So, Kevin says I have pregame effects. Ooh, going to take the initiative back via the Gemstone Caverns.
Not
all right.
the one I was expecting.
Me either.
Counter. I'll play top lands. Your turn.
And Reid is just going to play one of these double-face cards that acts as a swamp, but also a black card in the Necro Dominant Soul Spike March deck. So, Bogart Trawler, not today. Sorry, bud.
Get those graveyards out of there, though,
That's
on
right.
another day. I will say, though, for Kevin, mulliganing to 6 plus starting with Cavern here, you know, you are starting with a very low amount of cards in a deck that has to combine 2 cards. So is going to be tough unless he kind of has the perfect draw. Uggin's Labyrinth is going to help out a lot, though.
Let's head back Reid's way. Started things off with a Bogard Bog. And now Dothy Voidwalker. Oh boy. Oh no. Oh, this could go. Oh boy. Oh
I see
no.
it.
Oh,
It's
this
a
could
grief.
go. This could go real bad. This could go real bad. Oh boy.
Yeah, we have seen
Oh
this.
boy.
We have seen this a little bit. Oh, is this a veil to prevent it?
That's
Okay.
a pretty good card to have right now. Woo, doggy. Because that could go horrible.
We're still playing some Magic. I think one of the most iconic moments from our last Modern Pro Tour is Jake and Calcano playing, where Grief got an Ulamog.
It sure did.
Just tossed over
It sure
to Jake.
did.
And that one won him the game, believe it or not.
Let's see what we got here. There's the Talisman of Dominance. Very timely Veil of Summer there from Kevin.
Looks like there is a Kozilek's command as well as another Veil in hand, and what looks to be a Thought-Knot Seer. Could be wrong on the third one from Kevin.
How many cards? 3?
Reid gonna inquire about the number of cards, but Kevin's hand, as you did mention, Corey, is pretty good. Veil of Summer probably the best of the bunch right now, and given the high upside play potentially for Reid. So Reid is just gonna serve on in here with the Void Walker.
Right?
Yeah, that is definitely one way to, oh,
Necro.
there it is. And I do not see an answer for that. Ooh.
I'm gonna pay
Yeah, as big of a
12 life.
As big of a blowout as that Veil was with Grief there, as you lose 2 cards and get griefed, it just doesn't matter when you have Necro Dominance here.
It does not at all. So Reid is going to pay 12 life. That's the amount that we saw him pay in game number 1. It was so nice. He's going to do it twice. He's down to 8. And let's see what he can put together here. Now remember, maximum hand size is 5, so he's got to take that into the equation. If he does have a Soul Spike, you have to imagine he's going to send it towards Kevin's face. But let's see if he can organize and build up a pretty good hand like he did last game, where we saw Grief, and 2 games ago where we saw Grief and a Shieldred and just really started running downhill.
Yep, that was definitely the deck where he did, or the game where he did the thing. And I saw 1 Soul Spike at least. So there it is at our front.
And there's the Soul Spike.
12.
Corey, originally from what set?
Soul Spike?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Oh.
it's the one with Orin Viper. Cold Snap?
Oh, thank goodness.
Okay.
There he is.
Believe it or not, Soul Spike was not the best card from that set.
That's true. That's true. It is a Cold Snap one. Good job by you. Proud of you.
Thank you.
Proud
I
of you.
am really bad at what set these cards were from, I must say. So I guess I'll improve over the
You
weekend.
did great. You did great. It's a Thought-Knot Seer.
It just feels so bad when your opponent Thought-Knot Seers after you have Necro Dominance and you don't have a way to get rid of it. It's like, take a card, here you go.
Yep. You are welcome to look at my hand. I don't really mind.
Oh, especially when you have multiple Force of Despairs where you're just going to not only be able to deal with the Thought-Knot Seer, but get another card back.
Yep. This is starting to get pretty tough here for Kevin. So it looks like Dothy Voidwalker will be the selection there from the Thought-Knot Seer. Kevin's going to write these cards down, get a little bit of information, make sure he knows exactly what Reid is working with. But Reid has found the namesake card of the deck. It may not be Necropotence, but it might be a little bit more dominant than it.
Very much so.
Depends on who you ask.
And step all cast Force of Despair.
And here is the Force of Despair. So this one is destroy all creatures that enter the battlefield this turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I may exile a card. I want to say he just exiled 2 cards, though.
Not positive on that.
Yeah.
What did you put in the graveyard there?
Well, looks like it's getting cleared up.
Oh, it looks like
Yep, one too many.
I put 2 cards by mistake.
Okay, I was going to say, I was like, I must be wrong on this interaction, but
So
Reid's like, I have all these extra cards.
Let's listen in, see how they're going to fix this.
Also, warning to your opponent for failure to maintain game state, because I want you to pay more attention to what Reid is doing. We're going to back this up, so you're going to put a random card from your hand on top of your library.
Okay, since my opponent just saw my hand, does that change that it would be a random?
So actually, we know what card it was.
Yeah, so we know it's Force of Despair.
Yeah, so the other card will go on top of your library.
This card goes on top of my library.
Yeah. And then you will undo temporarily undo the casting of that. You will cast it correctly.
Okay, and is this being shuffled?
No.
Not being
The
shuffled?
library? No.
Yeah, because I know my top card now.
Yes.
So it could be an advantage to be able to...
Yes, but your opponent also could stop you.
Sure, that's what I've done. Okay, thanks for catching that, Judge. And I'm sorry. And here's the card that I draw from Thanakit Seer.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I'm done.
So we have 12 to 12. I skip my draw step.
Sure.
I'll evoke Grief.
Looks like Reid's going to do a little evoking of grief now. We want to thank Steven Zwanger, the judge on the call there, for very clear communication from all players as we got our game state back where it needed to be.
Judge, can a Doffy
From
Voidwalker
Roanoke.
let me cast a
From my
creature as an
hometown.
instant? Yeah.
Another Veil, though, to
Follow the normal timing rules
have a
for that.
nice interaction here with
Okay.
Grief.
Yep. So it looks like Reid was asking Steven if he could use the Voidwalker.
Do you mind?
He is, so
Get
he's
a few
going
minutes for
to
that call that
Yeah,
you're-
he's going to Thought Knots here
I'll
here.
exile Kozilek's command.
And so there goes the Kozak's command, leaving Kevin
12,
with just a
12.
Thought Knots here. And again, the life
I'm gonna
totals here,
go to my-
12 to 12. But let's see how much Reid wants to draw this time.
End step and draw 7 cards down to 5 life.
You got it.
Looks like it's going to be 5. That sound right to you, Corey?
That sounds right to me.
Yep.
Yep. Draws a nice 7 cards there, down to 5. And I really like that play from Reid there, just making sure he still gets to look at the hand. Like, the only way he's losing if it's, through the breach plus Emrakul. And if you can take 1 card, you're no matter what going to break that up outside of a top deck.
So Reid going to discard a couple of cards because, again, maximum hand size is 5 while Necro Dominance is on the battlefield. So the one ring among the cards that did go away. We have a Thought Knot Seer coming to play here for Kevin.
Okay, so that enters the battlefield.
And we're going to have a response here
Triggers
from
on
Reid.
stack. I'm gonna cast Force of Despair.
Sure. So you draw a card.
Yep.
And then I thought not you.
I agree. I'm also going to...
This deck and all its free spells.
I
man.
love it.
Jeez. So Force of Despair resolves. Thought Knot
this is
dies.
dead.
Yeah, so that's dead. Reid's going to clear that up.
Stack.
The Thought Knot triggers are still there, which is look at your hand, which is going to resolve second because drawing the card for Reid resolves first because the Thought Knot is dead. So now that Reid has drawn a card, he's going to actually let the Thought Knot resolve. He was thinking, obviously, about
Yeah.
Soul Spike.
I think he's just realizing he's like, well, if you don't take Shieldred, you're dead. So I can decide to do this soul spiking at any point because, well, Shieldred is just going to be too good.
Yep.
Got to get rid of it.
Spike.
So Shieldred is gone. Soul Spike, Break the Ice, Grief, and a Swamp are what's left over. And while those cards are, of course, good in the hand,
Yeah.
the best cards in play.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Going to be able to deal 4 here, put Kevin down to 4. And then, well, you got 1 soul spike in hand. All you need to do is find 1 more. Doesn't have that ability to play Shieldred, though, and, draw your entire amount of life left and then gain a bunch. So right now, Reid's life total is actually a decent amount of a resource that he can't get too crazy with.
Mm-hmm. Maybe time for Reid to maybe break the ice here?
And maybe pump the brakes a little
Break
bit.
the ice on
Okay.
Elfancy Temple.
There goes the Temple.
5 to 8.
Sure.
Yeah, how low do you
My
go?
end step.
Yeah.
And draw 4 cards down to 1
Well,
life.
that answers- Yeah, I guess this is actually probably pretty safe, too, because you can go down to 1 and just go, okay, Soul Spike, you go back to 5.
Yes.
Right, and it's not so bad.
And there's just, no, Reid, I'm sure, studied the deck list here beforehand, just making sure what kind of cards do I have to look for if I go down to 1. Is there a gut shot or something like that that you would have to actually consider it?
Yep.
There is not in the list, so yeah, pretty free reign to go as low as possible.
There's a Spike.
One draw step, and now that land 5's not there for Kevin, his outs are much, much lower. I bet that's not it.
That is not it indeed. Reid Duke is going to win this match. Mono Black Necro Dominant, perhaps, is what we should call it after it does win. That deck, when it does have its namesake enchantment, Corey, boy, does it look good.
Yeah, it looks really sweet. We've seen Nadu be pretty cool and stuff, but I want to see more of this Mono Black deck.
Yes.
That deck looks awesome, especially in the hands of these Hall of Fame players.
Yeah. A pretty awesome deck. Looks like more magic on the way. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
We
I
get
want more.
3 of these things?
Lucky.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to a break or not. I don't know if maybe we're going directly into it. Either way, we do have more magic to bring you in round number 6, and my question has been answered. We're going in right now.
Ooh, let's go.
Okay, so Teamer Eldrazi on one side, Boros Energy on the other. Okay,
Yes.
What the heck is going on here? They did say this is the fun round. So let's take a look. Matt did win game number 1. And we saw, you remember that Boros Energy mirror we saw earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's not the mirror this time. I wonder how it does maybe just against a non-mirror deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's a really sweet deck that I'm excited to see, but this Teamer Eldrazi deck that Frank was kind of showcasing at the booth here a little bit ago, it is, not your grandpa's Eldrazi deck. This is trying to attack really quick and can win as soon as turn 3. So really cool deck here from Matt, and going to be nice to see what him and the rest of the System Magic team brought to this Pro Tour.
Well, let's get this party started. A little Arena of Glory here from Zhang on the other side of things here for Johnson. Let's get these beatdowns started. This is what I'm talking about. Hood. Little line breaker.
There we go.
That's right.
I mean, I've lost to that card so many times in Limited, it makes sense that it's going to be pretty strong here in Constructed.
Yushuang is on a bit of a struggle, though. At least it appears to be, with just one land in the Arena of Glory, and then a Ragavan. Now this is how you know this format has changed, folks.
Yeah.
Remember Ragavan? You remember that thing?
It used to be so very good. Ragavan and Bowmaster are like, what happened?
Yeah.
Why am I not in every deck anymore?
I remember Ragavan. I remember how busted that card was and how everybody had to build their deck around it. Now people are basically ignoring the thing. I dare you to play Ragavan.
People can kill it and people can just block it now these days.
Yeah.
Just unfair.
Well, you do see Eldrazi line breaker, on the screen. It is a 3-mana 3/3 trample. Gives some other Eldrazi's haste. Gets pretty big. It's a heck of a card. If there's an aggressive Eldrazi deck in this format, Corey, you have to imagine that card's certainly going to be in it.
Definitely. And we haven't seen an aggressive Eldrazi deck that's turning one Eldrazi Temple sideways to cast a spell since the good old, Eldrazi Winter days when those aggressive Eldrazi decks were really just running rampant. So, I mean, if Matt found the way to kind of do that again and get aggressive with Eldrazi, it's definitely a recipe for success.
I know many players tried coming into the tournament.
Definitely.
There's a lot of different ways you can build an Eldrazi deck in this format with the lands that are available. Temple is going to kind of be ubiquitous in all the decks, but past that, it's really kind of notable that you can do a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different options from that are available in Eldrazi because of Modern Horizons 3. So, and this is one of them. This is a Null Drifter.
Just a hard cast Null Drifter here with 4 lands.
Yeah.
That's just really impressive. And how does this Boros deck, especially that has been stumbling, keep up with this kind of value? Annihilator 1 on a battlefield when you only have 3 times that many permanents? Not great, especially when it has the haste, Cedric.
Ah, yes. The haste is the place. Annihilator 1 indeed.
Thought maybe we were going to see poor Ragavan just be like, all right, we're done with this. Head to the bin.
See, here's the thing. When you have a Ragavan, you dream big.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You dream of hitting your opponent. And then what can happen? Anything can happen.
It's been 84 years since it's connected,
That's
though.
right. Never give up, never... See, here we go.
Oh, baby.
Never give up, never surrender.
Ragavan also is rough because there's so many Eldrazi decks that you just can't cast your opponent's cards as well.
Well, yeah, and that's actually kind of the big deal with Ragavan now, I think, is, you hit an Eldrazi, it's like, okay, nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
When you're playing against when you're playing against Bant Nadu, you're going to hit a Shuko? Okay, I guess, right? I don't care about that.
It's a 3-1 Ragavan now.
Yeah, right? Like there's all these decks where it doesn't seem like Ragavan's hits are actually that good. It doesn't seem so bad. All his dust, clear up that Ragavan. Okay, see you later.
No, that's a really good point, though. Every deck is so synergistic these days that you're not hitting just generically powerful cards like you have been with Ragavan when we were dealing with Rakdos Evoke Mirrors, that kind of stuff. You know, you hit good cards off them. Here, it's just not so great.
So you saw all his dust take care of the Ragavan, and now here's a Big O. And a Big O might be all that it takes to get this one over with here.
Yep.
Said Big O is the brand new Devourer of Destiny, and it devoured the Destiny there. The winner is Matt Skinnick Johnson. Congratulations there. We're seeing a little bit of everything here, Corey, in round number 6.
Yeah, this round was really fun. Aptly named, as you were saying it earlier, but I want to see more of that Teamer Eldrazi deck. That was nice.
Yeah, we got
Looks really sweet. I need more of it.
Yeah, a little sneak peek, just a little sneak peek that particular round. But we got a larger view of kind of what's going on in the room here at Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3 from Amsterdam. There's a lot of cool decks in the room. We know coming in with the Frank Karsten breakdown of, oh, it's Nadu this, Nadu that. Not to me. Not to me, baby. We saw some fun top deck lightning bolts and a whole lot of dominance from Reid. We will head to our news desk and maybe more fun right after this.